This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening by Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, the Islanders preseason ended last Friday. Their regular season begins on Thursday. On today, Sunday, they made a bunch of waiver moves to get their roster to be cap compliant. We have a lot to get to today. Oh, and by the way, it's also our 300th episode. So there's a lot on the table right now, which may not have been there this morning, but I think we're about ready to dive into everything. But we might as well just start with the big topic at hand, the one that's gotten everybody sort of talking on Isles Twitter today. Where were you when you found out that Pierre Engvall, the man with 6 years left on his contract at $3 million per, was placed on waivers and will most likely be a Bridgeport Islander by this time tomorrow?
Well, I was actually in a very unique location. I was at a place called Backyard Players, I believe it's called, in Rockville Center. My mom wrote a cookbook a while back.
Oh, wow.
And she was doing like a little demo and Q&A with the cookbook.
Cool.
So the cookbook's called Cooking with Gratitude, and if you want one, you're always welcome to get one. It's a very like personal cookbook about the meals she grew up eating through her from her grandparents and parents, and passed on all the recipes through us. And it's, if you are interested in that, by all means, she would love it. And so I was there, but my dad was there, my brother was there, and I was trying my best not to really take the phone out and think too much about it. So the event started at 2 p.m. So right as the waivers came in, but I think by 10 a.m. we all kind of knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Because they had that open practice where Patrick Watt took the mic, and which was also pretty cool. I think that's something, I try my best to point out when maybe we'd be a little hypocritical. I do think that if I was geeking out about it, but if I saw, let's say, Leafs fans geeking out about Sheldon Keefe doing something like that, I would definitely make fun of it. But Patrick Waugh is Patrick Waugh, so a little different, I guess. But so we kind of knew what was happening. My dad just said to me, "Can't believe Engvall," and I was like, "Me too." And I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot today, because I do think there's a number of different things, right? Like, it is an indictment on the player and kind of like the flaws that we all knew he had. Definitely an indictment on the decision to sign him to that long-term contract. But I also don't think it's like the end of Pierre Engvall as an Islander. This happens in the NHL, right? Like, players get waived and sent down, and then they have a little fork in the road moment. And sometimes these players bounce back and kind of take it as take the wake up call, and put it all together and become a mainstay and make a real good second wind of it with their career. And other times it's, for lack of a better word, a pity party. Things don't go in the right direction, and Pierre Engvall type player gets bought out, or he's traded with a pick attached to him, or sometimes just leaves, right, and like terminates the contract. I don't think Pierre Engvall is going to I would as
No.
strongly, if I was part of his family, strongly advise him against doing that and passing up the $3 million
Right.
that he can possibly collect, or even whatever the buyout turns out to be. But
Mm.
um, yeah, I would say I wasn't surprised. I would have a week ago if you told me this, I would have
Mm.
probably been like, you don't, you don't really understand how this works, how training camp works. Like this stuff
Mm.
happens all the time. Guys just get a message sent in training camp, but he's obviously going to make the team. He's got 6 more years left at
Right.
$3 million. But as the week went on, it became more and more ominous, and started to come to grips that wow, Pierre Engvall is at this crossroads now. But
Mm.
the thing is, like everyone, like there's no secret here. Everyone kind of knows what this player is and what his fatal flaw is. And they also all say the same thing. Like this is a hugely gifted, talented hockey player, and his one issue is that his um, compete level, to
Mm.
steal a cliche, is not up to the standard of the Islanders right now, which is fine. Like at least there's some accountability in this situation. So
Mm.
I don't. I would still say I'd expect Pierre Engvall to play a part here on this season, because there's no way that anybody's going to pick him up off waivers with 6 more years left. But I yeah, it was what a jarring moment it must be for him. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, definitely a little bit of drama from the Islanders out of training camp, which is not something we've seen really
No.
for the past few years.
Yeah. To even have a competition for a spot is kind of unusual for this team, which has been
Right,
set.
which is crazy, Dan, because the Leafs were the team with the most competitive training camp. If you remember, this is the theme of Toronto Maple Leafs training camp this year
Right.
is competition,
Yeah.
and the buzzwords are north south. They are becoming the first NHL team to try to play north south. So
Yes.
get ready to see, you won't believe your eyes when you see Toronto Maple Leafs skate in straight lines on a hockey pad, because that's what they're gonna try to reinvent the game here and be
Right.
very progressive with their north south. So just keep
Yeah.
that term in mind.
I will, and yeah, we'll keep looking for updates from the Ford Performance Center regarding the Leafs and their training camp. No, but it is a surprising thing, and like you said, I mean, you know, we all kind of assumed that he would have a spot, but in Lou Lamoriello's own words, it was his job to lose, and he lost it. And we'll talk about who he lost it to in a minute. We're going to dive into a lot. We have like I said, a lot to get to today. We've also got some overly specific predictions and some extra stuff towards the end here about episode 300. Before we dive into all of that, reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. Or you can join for free to get our weekly release calendar and announcements. So sign up today, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Yeah, you know, the thing with Engvall, well, first of all, my first thought, this is a little bit selfish of me, but my first thought was, wait, what did we say when he signed that contract in the first place? Because I didn't remember. It's just been so long, and you know, we're kind of so used to Lou doing Lou things that I don't remember what we said. So I ended up finding it and going back and listening to it. And basically the reason I didn't remember what we said about it was because that was the same day that, yes, Scott Mayfield also signed his 7-year long contract, but
Yep.
that was the day they signed Ilya Sorokin.
Sorokin, yeah.
And our, basically, to paraphrase, it was episode 256, if you want to go back and listen to it. And basically, our feeling was they signed Sorokin, so who cares? Who cares what what the other guys got? Because you secure, this was after him coming off of this Vezina Trophy nomination season. He was one of the best goalies in the league, if not the best goalie in the league. Who cares? They just signed this guy to a reasonable, really for him, very reasonable contract. They could sign Pierre Engvall for 50 years. I don't care. Like, whatever.
And they dumped all the news at the same time. Because
Yes.
I remember being like, holy shit, and texting Elliot Friedman in very like stream of conscious, my own language, which I don't think if you have full context of who I am as a person, you'd be like, what the hell are you saying? And that's exactly, he's like, what are you talking about right now? And it's like, just saying that the Islanders signed Ilya Sorokin, and I have a lot of pizza on my lap right now, actually.
Right. But like, that was the big thing. And like, was it a crazy contract? Yes, we called it crazy, but it was also pretty cheap. And if it works out, then, you know, I mean, again, this was Engvall coming off of his, you know, whatever, half season or 2-3 months as an Islander after the trade deadline, where he showed up, played very well in that playoff series against the Hurricanes. And it looked like, you know, they wanted to keep this guy. We were happy that somebody wanted to stay. We're still in that sort of mode where it's happy people want to stay on the island. You know, Scott Mayfield, we gave a lot more grace to and had a lot more leeway for because of all the things he's done and how long he's been here. But with Engvall, it was like, this is pretty crazy. But It's only a $3 million cap hit. The cap is going to go up. It's really not that bad. We were more mad that people were basically calling this a war crime, this contract, and were like losing their minds over it, more so than losing their minds off of the good deal they gave Sorokin. And that sort of, as that kind of stuff often does, drew our attention. So, now having looked back on it, it was a little crazy. Engvall, I think, had 28 points in 73 games last year. In camp this year, just was a lot of the same. He's a big dude. He's a good skater, but he can score. We've seen him score, but he just doesn't do it consistently, and he just doesn't produce enough in a certain amount of time to make him take that job, like Lou said. Now, listen, the guys he's competing with, Julien Gauthier and Oliver Wahlstrom, and frankly, Hudson Fasching, who, again, we'll give a little bit of leeway to because he was hurt at parts of this training camp. They also could be described that way. I mean, Gauthier and Wahlstrom are on the team as of the end of camp, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of them gets waived by the time we talk next week because they're the same thing. And I'll go off on Wahlstrom in a minute. We'll stick with Engvall for now, but it's just so funny to me that he lost his job. I mean, really the guy who took his job was Maxim Siplikov. That's the guy, right? He's walked in off a plane from Russia, and over the course of the, since rookie camp to today, he's gradually climbed the lines to where he's playing with Nelson and Palmieri and has looked great and has played really well. We'll get to the last two preseason games in a little bit too. But that's the thing that kind of spelled the end for all of these guys was, holy shit, there's a guy now who looks like he's going to do something more often than we're doing anything. And it's just, that's the way it is. And so Engvall, finds himself on the outs. Now, I will say one thing though, if the Islanders do bring him back, and again, if he's down in Bridgeport, they could, that they're going to have to account for his salary. So that means somebody's gone on LTIR or something like that. So I'm not disputing that he could come back. I'm just saying that it's going to require a lot of sort of cap machinations that may or may not have to come to pass to make work. But, as far as the starting roster goes here, and that's what we're doing, is getting cap compliant before the season opening game on Thursday against Utah. This was probably the best move they could make. Get him off the books and keep the other guys because they could all fit under his cap hit.
I agree. I think in just like an X's and O's in a vacuum, it's the thing that makes the most sense. And then when you add more context, which is that, if they wanted to keep Wahlstrom off waivers, they had to do this.
Right.
Otherwise they didn't have enough room. It starts to make more sense. And we talked about this from the point of view of Wahlstrom last week, which is he's not competing with Patrice Bergeron for the spot, right? You are competing with Max Siplikov and Julien Gauthier and Oliver Wahlstrom and Hudson Fasching. And I would classify Fasching as a little bit of a different sort. Yeah. But the other three, the word that comes to mind for all three of these players is seductive. They are very, very seductive players. But they're also, in my mind, at least to this point of their Islander career, they are style over substance. And the Islanders just don't need that. They just don't need it anymore. There was a time when Pierre Engvall, we said this, I think, on that episode, or at least when they traded for him, was the Islanders already had enough guys who will go they will literally die for the Islanders. They had somebody say it out loud in an interview once. So they had enough of the Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin molds. They already had those. Scott Mayfield. There was already enough of that even Kyle Palmieri, Anders Lee, those guys fit that. Bo Horvat, I think J.G. Pajot fits that mold, right? So you already had enough of those guys that, you bring in Engvall as your 10th, 11th, or 12th forward. He doesn't need to die for the Islanders. He needs to just he just needs to be himself. He just needs to be fast, seductive on the ice, and he was. I think that's the thing you shouldn't get overlooked here is Engvall was really, really good for the Islanders when he came over initially. So good that I wouldn't say I was this deal is going to make a lot of sense, but I almost understood the logic of you lock a player up with this kind of upside up for $3 million. If you get a guy who hits 20 goals on this contract 3 times, it probably makes sense overall. And he just wasn't very good for the most part last year.
Yeah.
But then he was really good down the stretch last year. He had a little bit of a resurgence. He had a really good game against the Rangers late in the year. He had a really good game against the Canadians, I remember, late in the year. He was good in the playoff series against the Hurricanes. He's just not he's not Kyle Palmieri, right? He's not a guy that you're going to he's going to put on the jersey, he's going to put on his skates, he's going to skate out, he's going to listen to the national anthem, and then he's going to work his absolute tail off until the horn goes, and then he goes home to his kids. Pierre Engvall just isn't going to do that every night of a season. Some nights he will, and you're going to be like, damn, this guy is awesome. But some nights he won't. And at this point, the Islanders are at a point in what we think is an improved roster. They now have a guy like Anthony Duclair. They have Max Siplikov. Like, they have guys who can score the 20 goals that you were maybe hoping that Engvall would score, and then some. And maybe that's putting the cart before the horse with Siplikov a little bit, but I'll choose to just be optimistic with him until proven otherwise, because I'm sick of thinking about like the other way, right? Like Anatoly. I don't want to just like think about Anatoly Golishev, right?
That ship has sailed already because
it feels
preseason, basically.
Yeah, it feels different.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited about him, and so they already have those guys, so it makes so much sense, and it's like, it's so simple. It's so simple to Pierre Engvall. It's an effort thing. It's a consistency thing. And I think one part of this that I really like, and I like Pierre Engvall, the player, a lot. I think, he's so handsome. It was fun when he came over from the Leafs, because there was all this talk about this guy being like a underrated kind of shark, and another masterclass by the Leafs for drafting him in the 7th round, and Dubas got a lot of credit for that, even though I'm pretty sure it was Lou. Sometimes I get it wrong, but I think that was Lou Lamoriello who drafted Pierre Engvall in the 7th round. But so when he came over, it was great. I like that part of it too, right? Sticking it to the Leafs a little bit when he came over. But like, it's just, there's one thing he's got to work on, and when there's a big difference here when the regime that's telling you, hey, like, you just haven't been good enough. Like, this isn't Jack Capuano and Gar Snow. This isn't Scott Gordon and Gar Snow. Charles Wang isn't like saying, yeah, we're replacing you with a sumo wrestler in goal. This is Lou Lamoriello, but more importantly, it's Patrick Waugh, like, saying, like, he had that conversation. He had a conversation with Patrick Waugh, where Patrick Waugh was like, yeah, you just haven't been good enough. All due respect to Lane Lambert. And by the way, just a quick aside here. In my travels through Leaf podcast land, I've now discovered, if you think we over exaggerate how little people pay attention to the Islanders in the mainstream hockey media, especially the one that emanates from Toronto, the Leaf Report, which is hosted by the luminaries Jonas Siegel and James Myrtle, they pronounce Lane Lambert, who's now the Leafs assistant coach, and they're very excited to see what changes he brings to their penalty kill, which, got news for you guys. Strap in. But they pronounce Lane Lambert, who is from a town called, I think, Melford, Saskatchewan. So Western Canadian boy Lane Lambert, head coach in the NHL for 2 years. He was a Stanley Cup winning assistant coach for a while, had a lot of interviews before.
Played in the NHL for like 10 years for the Red Wings.
They pronounce his name Lane Lambert. And they keep doing it. Myrtle was on JD Butkus' podcast. They was like, yeah, and they brought in Lane Lambert. Like,
oh my God,
this guy coached against you guys in like a game where like some crazy shit was happening. A bunch of them. And every time the Leafs and Islanders have played have been really exciting games. Anyways,
James Myrtle should call Steve Yzerman, who played with Lane Lambert for 3 seasons and roomed with him, and ask him how to pronounce Lane Lambert's last name.
Incredible. But yeah, it's not Lane Lambert telling Pierre Engvall that he hasn't been good enough. It's Patrick freaking Waugh. Like, that carries some weight. And the one last point I will say before I turn it back over to you is that Lou said something, like, he was talking about how he's just got beat out. It was Engvall's shot to lose that second line spot with Palmieri and Nelson, or even the 13th forward spot. The one thing I would say is, if Anders Lee isn't on this team, I think Pierre Engvall plays on that third line with Pajot and Holmstrom. It makes like a really decent third line. And maybe that's what ends up happening as if he comes back, if he bounces back up, has a good showing down there. He plays some minutes there. There's going to be injuries. So who knows how this shakes out, but that is one thing I will note. Like, the calculus is very different if
That's probably true.
if
Yeah.
Lee isn't here, which he
Yeah.
is. So and
Yeah.
all credit to Anders Lee. It sounds like he's had a pretty good showing as well.
Yeah. But he's also, and you're 100% right, I think. But he's also Anders Lee. Like,
Yeah,
he's the
he's Anders Lee.
captain.
Yeah.
He's got all the leadership skills. He's like everybody's captain, everybody's big brother. So again, that's not a thing that Pierre Engvall. He's a die for the Islanders kind of guy, Anders Lee. Pierre Engvall really isn't, basically. But yeah, and the other guy I don't know if we've mentioned yet also is Kyle McLean, another guy who
Yes.
basically took a job. And what you described was the guy to come in, show up, just and grind for 60 full minutes. Who does that sound like? McLean, who's also looked great. He's picked up right where he left off. So, on one hand, it's surprising because of the contract. On the other hand, it's not, given how Engvall plays, how he's played this preseason, and all the other kind of factors that go in. I just do need to say one last thing before we move on, is that it's easy to say like Engvall probably didn't see this coming, but the other thing is when you have a neck that long, maybe he did see it coming. So that's my other thought on Pierre Engvall. One other thing too, I guess I want to point out something that our friend Ryan from Skates at the Stakes, Rat Martin on Twitter, said that I thought was pretty good. He said not to lose sight of Lou giving a 7-year deal to Eng. He said, let me start this again. Not to lose sight of Lou giving a 7-year deal to Engvall, but there is something to say here for Lou cutting his losses and putting Engvall on waivers rather than letting this drag out. It could be 2 years or 7 years. It's still better to process to acknowledge the sunk cost rather than drag it out. And I agree. Like, this is Lou being like, okay, we have a problem and he needs to go on waivers. And I'm sure that there's a lot of input here from Patrick Waugh too, who clearly wasn't connecting with Engvall at all. Now, that being said, again, the guys he was competing with, I'm not sold on Julien Gauthier. All I've ever seen is the speed. If you listen, there was the game against the Flyers, by the way, where the Islanders won 4-3. They look pretty good. That was the one Kyle Palmieri won basically in the last minute with a goal cutting across the crease, which is pretty cool. That was the game that, if you watched it on the Islanders stream on their website, it was called by Chris King and Greg Picker. If you took a drink every time Chris King said the words Julien Gauthier and great speed in the same sentence, you would have passed out before the end of the second period, because that's all this guy has, is he's got that great speed. He didn't do anything, but he's got great speed. So again, I'm not sold on this guy. And as far as Wahlstrom goes, and we got a good look at him in Friday's final preseason finale, a 5-2 win against the Rangers. Very enjoyable preseason game. Barzal had 5 points, a goal and 4 assists. It was terrific. They ran the Rangers out of UBS Arena. It was great. Wahlstrom played, and if you missed the game, the good news is that you've seen this performance from Wahlstrom. And I noticed it. Like, he starts out, with a lot of energy, makes a bunch of hits, makes a mistake, puck ends up immediately in the back of the Islanders' net. He'll get like a great scoring chance, miss the net by 7 feet, and then he just completely goes missing for the rest of the game. And that's exactly what happened here. And again, I think he might have had two great scoring chances in this game. Missed them both really wide. I think one was high and one was wide. And it was just the same Wahlstrom performance. And so to me, I thought he was a shoo-in for waivers, but maybe they don't, like you said, it's possible they don't want to lose him there. It's most likely no one will pick up Pierre Engvall because of that 6 years left. However, I did have an exchange with, I guess, our friend Arthur Staple, and I was like, what if the Ducks have $21 million in cap space? They picked up Ross Johnston last year. They have almost nobody signed for forwards beyond like the next couple of years. There's like, I think 1 or 2 guys that have contracts beyond the next couple of years. So maybe they would look and think, hey, you know what? Maybe we get a free guy with 6 years left. He's not going anywhere. Maybe he ends up playing well for us. And Art pretty much shot me down, but I'm holding out hope. We'll see what happens. But, most likely he ends up going to Bridgeport. And that's that. And, like you said, he could come back later on. And it makes the most sense because then they can keep Wahlstrom. But, I think that last forward spot is up for grabs as much now as it was then. And it would be great for somebody to grab it. Again, Fasching also got waived. The other guys who got waived, by the way, Fasching, Liam Foudy, Frederick Karlstrom, who had a goal. I mean, Frederick Karlstrom had a goal in the preseason, and Oliver Wahlstrom didn't. Oh, no, Wahlstrom did. Sorry, I think he did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I take that back. I don't think Engvall did, or maybe he did. But those guys all got sent down. Sam Bolduc and Grant Hutton did. Bolduc is a little bit surprising because they tried for years to avoid putting him on waivers, but I guess at this point they just had to. And then Marcus Hogberg obviously got sent down too, because Ilya Sorokin that's the funny thing too. We were going to come into this talking about how Ilya Sorokin came back to practice and took shots and looks like he's going to be ready for game one, but that's all kind of, all right, well, now we're moving on and hopefully he's okay. We don't need to talk about his injury anymore. But yeah, so it's been a wild day, funny, crazy thing to think about. But honestly, if you look at this roster as it goes into the first game of the season, this is probably the best roster they could have put together. And that just doesn't include Pierre Engvall, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, it is crazy for the Islanders, who have are the same group as they were last year and the year before and the year before that.
So they keep telling us.
Yeah, the Wahlstrom situation is so funny to me because it sounded like him and Engvall were both being talked about the same way.
Yeah.
For most of the camp, which is like, yeah, they just haven't been there yet. I want to see more. I want to see more. Which really makes me think that they're like, we gotta do something with Engvall. Like with it, we gotta send a message, and it's now we're now at like, the teachers had it up to here with you, Pierre. So go. I got in a lot of trouble in 8th grade for nothing nefarious, but I was always in trouble in the principal's office, and it was that's when you graduated from our. I went to St. Agnes, and at the end of 8th grade, our grade went to Six Flags. And in March, in the beginning of March, I got called down to the principal's office, and they said to me, "Yeah, you're not going. You just been too much of a rabble rouser." And I'm sure they had a different word, but and said you're on notice. Like, you have to earn your way back onto that trip. So I was on my best behavior. Good trick by them to get me to shut the fuck up in class, I get, because I was an angel from that point on. Earned my way back into the field trip, and that's what Pierre Engvall's got now, right? Like, it's like you're off the team. Like, you're not coming to Six Flags, buddy. You're not going to be able to ride Medusa and Nitro with your buddies JG Pajot and Simon Holmstrom. Because you just haven't behaved well enough, and but you can earn your way back up if you go down and do the right thing. And
right,
with I think that there is that tool left to use against someone like Engvall is the point. Whereas like with Wahlstrom, I just don't think there is. Like, what are you gonna do? Be like, yeah, you got to go back down to Bridgeport, but you can earn your way back in. I just don't think, like, given where his career is compared to Engvall's and like the portfolios that they have behind them, like with Wahlstrom, it's like, yeah, that's it. Like, he's done.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to really earn back. Like, Engvall is trying to earn something back, where Wahlstrom is actually like trying to just like stay in the league. He's just trying to stay in the league, right? Like, it's just different.
Right.
So I just don't think you can use that tool with Wahlstrom too, at the same way. So I remain skeptical, like you, like, of both Wahlstrom and Gauthier. Like, this is, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong. Like, I would love for both of them to really be effective players, because that means the Islanders are better, and that's ultimately what we all want. I'm not rooting for Julien Gauthier to be waved back to Bridgeport so I can do told you this guy was no good on Twitter. I could care less. I just want the Islanders to win, and but I am like, I'm skeptical of them. Whereas, as you said, that guy like Kyle McLean, I am like wondering what is going to happen with Kyle McLean this season. Like, we talked about Siplikov a little bit, and like, I'm buying in on that. I'm also buying in on this guy, and this is the preseason, the opening week of the year, so it's the time when optimism should run rampant. And I like, what if Kyle McLean has his? There's a couple players like that pop to mind for me, like in types of seasons, like Matt Molson, for example, one of those 26 goal seasons where he just is, everything he touches works, goes in, and really establishes himself as a goal scoring threat or like a producing threat in this league. Someone like Jason Blake too, and I'm not saying he's going to have a 40 goal Blake season, but I'm saying Jason Blake, if his Islander career was. He was like an afterthought with the Ducks, I believe, and came over to the Islanders.
Oh, there's the Kings. It was the Kings.
The Kings, right? The Kings came over to the Islanders, and like, good, scrappy little 12th, 13th forward for us, and nobody will notice him because we're the Islanders. Like, I don't even know if they paid him his first year. They probably didn't. They're like, we're gonna put you in a motel in Deer Park with a couple of other guys, and
Mm,
we'll pick you up and bring you to the rink. We don't even have a practice rink here. We
mm,
just come to show up, and he ended up having like a okay first year. Then he started to be like 11-ish, 14-ish goals season, as they started to become better as a team. And then he worked his way up, just incrementally got better
mm.
and he crescendoed with that 40 goal season. So like I can see something like that, like a path like that, where he's just
Yeah.
a guy who just gets a little bit better every year, and then really has a massive moment. He got a mention on 32 Thoughts, which
Mm.
I had said to one of the co-hosts there. I won't tell you which one. That I was like, this is a crazy story. You should look into this McLean stuff. Like, and I sent Kyle McLean's
Mm.
stats from his years before last year. Like, the guy just didn't score or produce anywhere. He had a good year in junior when he was an overager, and that's what earned him a ECHL AHL two-way deal. But it's a crazy story. It's this type of story that if on most bigger kind of teams, like, he's getting a ton of ink spilt about him and his work
Mm.
ethic and all that stuff. But here it's just gonna fly under the radar until he pops for like 28 goals. But I don't think that's out of the question. I'm not saying
Yeah.
this season, but like, this guy is, I'm I'm he's not a seductive player like
Mm.
the Engvalls and the Walshams and the Gautiers, but I am fully swooning about Kyle McLean, because
Mm.
like, this guy, he beat if you would have shown me this roster, it would be like,
Mm.
this guy's gonna beat last, like, a year ago today. You said, well, but this is the Islanders roster for this year. But wait till next year when Kyle McLean
Yeah.
beats out Pierre Engvall, and he beats out Julian Gauthier, and he beats out Hudson Fasching, who we all kind of thought was gonna be this type of player.
Right.
Be like, who the hell is Kyle McLean?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? But
Yeah.
we're there. Like, it's an awesome story.
I mean, because he just changes the metrics, and that's the thing. Like, that's we don't have to name names, but I mean, people are still writing like, oh, the Islanders didn't do anything. They're running it back. They didn't change anything. So okay, so they didn't change anything, but yet they've got Duclair here now, Sipakov here now, McLean here now, Engvall is gone, Cal Clutterbuck is gone. Matt Martin is gone. Now, Matt Martin did not sign, they didn't sign him to a contract. He is going to stay on his PTO,
So cool. It's
which
so
is
good.
means he joins the Shadow Team, which we
Yeah.
talked about a while back. We're gonna do our overly specific predictions in a little while, and I'm gonna talk about Matt Martin, but he's gone for now. But he could sign really at any time, and you know, he does have he's 45 games to go before he gets to 1,000. So it's like, despite the fact that their fourth line is totally new, their second and third lines have brand new, their first and second lines have brand new wingers on them. Other than that, this is the exact same team. Like, it's just two guys that played for them for a combined 30 years are gone. And oh yeah, by the way, now, and the guy they signed to a 6-year contract, who they thought was going to be like a regular piece, is also gone. But other than that, they're exactly the same. So there you go. It's a little bit, it's a little crazy.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
As I said before, and our friend Matt Strauss sent me the tweet I was referring to about like pundits, and like how
Yeah.
like being a pundit is just like the cushiest job ever, because you can
Yeah.
just say stuff, be wrong, and then the next day you just get to keep saying stuff and being wrong, and nobody ever holds you
Yeah.
accountable. And I should give credit to the tweet, because it's well put. It's by a journalist named Luke Zaleski, and he says, "I wish I was a finance pundit. They never have to be right about anything. Name one pundit who's ever right about anything. The
Yeah.
point is to be wrong. That's what drives the plot, the big reveal. And then they could go on TV again with their horse race narratives." So like, it's just
That's
it-
hockey
that's-
punditry too.
exactly. Yeah, you just could
Yeah.
just put, instead take finance out. You could just go onto a podcast that's listened to by most of like the hockey world who's starving for news content, and say that the Islanders are the same old Islanders as they were in 2021, and realize that that is an absolute bold-faced lie, and that Lou hasn't woken up yet. But
Right. Yeah.
no, it's a different team, and I think that's feeding towards the optimism. And Patrick Roy, their head coach too.
For sure. And he gave a stirring speech, as you mentioned before, to the fans, the season ticket holders in attendance of today's open practice. But it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned the punditry, because I'm looking at the list here of today's waivers. And again, this is, this happens every year. They got to get down to the the limit, I guess, by Tuesday, when I think most of the games start. And so that's another thing too. Like it's I don't know if too many people are going to get picked up on waivers, because everybody's trying to get rid of guys. So unless they really, really like somebody, I think most teams are probably going to just let their guys go and come down to the roster that they expect to have with their own guys. But this list here, and this is from our friend Rene Lavoie and of TVA, and it's got a lot of names here of guys who we have been told repeatedly were the next big thing, the next guy up, the next, why don't they keep this guy? This guy's pretty good. What's going on with him? Well, most of them are on waivers now. The first guy on the list is Erik Brannstrom, who may not ring a bell to most of you, but he is the guy that the Vegas Golden Knights took with the Islanders' first round pick in 2017. The Islanders traded a first round pick and Mikhail Grabovski to the Golden Knights so that they would take JF Berube, right? Am I remembering that happened? Basically to protect Cal Clutterbuck, Bailey, all these other guys.
It was basically to protect Pelech, I think was
yes.
Like,
okay,
I guess the Knights ran Gar Snow and said, we like this Pelech guy. And he's like, you guys can take this pick and keep your hands off him.
So I remember there was people getting all pissed off about it. Well, Erik Brannstrom went from Vegas to Ottawa. He played there, did not catch on, kept going back and forth to the AHL, signs with Colorado. And then like a month later, now he gets traded to Vancouver, where he's at now. So like, he's the first guy on this list. Matthew Robertson of the Rangers is apparently going to be a big deal. But now he's on waivers, and we've heard that Zach Jones was going to be a big deal. We've heard that Brennan Othmann was going to be a big deal, and those guys didn't look like big deals on Friday against the Islanders. Let me tell you that. Who else? Adam Gaudette played a long time for the Canucks. Wow, what a piece this guy is. Yeah, he's on waivers today too. Who else? Zach Aston Reese, a favorite of yours.
I was waiting for you to mention Zach Aston Reese.
I did not know he was a Vegas Golden Knight as of right now, but now
he's not anymore.
He's going to be a Henderson Silver Knight. Yeah. There you go. Who else? There was another guy. Oh, if you follow Jim Matheson out of Edmonton, venerable Oilers writer, and seems like a pretty fun old guy, you will know that he talks about Josh Brown, as if he is one of his own sons. And well, he's on waivers too. Raphael Lavoie, another. When are they going to call this guy up from Bakersfield? Well, he's on waivers also. Nolan Foote is put on waivers, the son of Adam Foote, the old player for the Avalanche. Who was the other guy? Oh, William Lagesson, another guy we heard about when he was with the Oilers for years. Oh, he's good. Why don't people realize how good he is? He's played for like 19 different teams, and he's on waivers today too. Oh, Jack Studnicka was the final one that I wanted to point out too. Nope, sorry, two more. Ryan Suzuki and Ty Smith, two other guys who are high picks. And, so being put on waivers is not a death sentence. It's not a final, nail in your career's coffin, but it does happen. Sebastian Aho, formerly of the Islanders, now of the Penguins. Yeah, he's going down to Wilkes-Barre. So
no.
Yeah.
Bring him back, baby. Bring him back. Come on.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God. It would be fucking hilarious. Yeah. He's the list is great. It always is always this is one of my favorite days of the year. This list of people, the outrage. Like I said, I wasn't totally tuned in because I was with my family, but I did want to see the outrage. I remember that prospect modeler when the Avalanche signed Brannstrom.
Yeah.
To the 1-year deal, he lost his mind. He thought it was like a stroke of genius by one of the smartest organizations out there, and he gets traded to another team in camp. Like he signed with the Avalanche in July, got traded to Vancouver, and just so Vancouver could waive him. Or have the right order, right? It's because it's when I'm trying to figure out the order of a situation like that, doesn't mean your career is going well. So it just like none of this stuff is easily projectable or linear, and like Kyle McLean is really a perfect example of it. Hudson Fasching is as well. Like these guys, just when you're outside of like the top 8 of an NHL team, you're just always going to be susceptible to this because
Right.
there will be guys trying to take your job, and the salary cap will always bare its teeth. And um, everyone gets to laugh about the Alex Barre-Boulet tweet that makes its rounds at this point every year about
Yeah.
how if he passes through waivers, like every GM, well,
Mm.
31 GMs need to lose their jobs, even though, and then he's like on waivers all the time too. So
Yeah.
yeah, they like I don't know if you were going in this direction, but people thinking that the Islanders are going to pick up anybody off this list, I would
Yeah.
be absolutely shocked if they did. The but what can I make? I'll make one prediction that I don't want to
Sure.
count as a super prediction. You know who the one guy I actually could see the Islanders losing? Do you want to guess?
I mean, Bolduc is the guy that they've been afraid of losing this whole time. I don't. Hutton has been on waivers before, and he has
Yeah, no,
not
it's
been
not.
picked
None
up.
either.
So
Hogberg. I wonder
yeah,
if Hogberg gets plucked.
he has looked good this
He's looked
preseason.
good, and
Yeah.
he'll be like there's the Canucks really are their goaltending situation is in flux. The Red Wings could of course use a 7th or 8th goalie, but I could see like the Flyers goaltending situations. I mean, I don't think they would pick him up, but like there's
Yeah.
some teams with unsettled goaltending situations.
Mm.
Maybe someone's banged up or whatever, and he'd be cheap, and he'd also be someone that those teams would be like, yeah, we can just waive him anyways. There's no skin off our teeth if the if we're the Seattle Kraken, and we're like, yeah, we'll just see if this guy actually is worth replacing someone like Joey Decord or whatever. Like it's like
Right.
that's the one guy who
Mm.
I actually think
Yeah.
has a chance.
There's a number of goalies on that list. Brandon Bussi was the guy the Bruins signed before when they were in their fight with Jeremy Swayman, which came to an end today. So of course Bussi now ends up on waivers because they don't need him anymore because Swayman is back.
The Swayman
So
situation, I'm just so happy it's over.
I know.
What are these guys going to talk about? They'll find something.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll go to the owner of the Ottawa Senators, Michael Landauer, to get something because they always like talking about him. By the way, just as we were talking, and we'll get to the break here in a second and cover everything else. I don't think we need to go into those preseason games again. They were both wins. The Flyers game was a little closer. The Rangers game was not. The Islanders blew them out, which was a lot of fun again. And that top line looks like it could be real dynamite, which would be great. But I just this tweet from Jay Fresh got put into my feed here, and it talks about Pierre Engvall. And my favorite thing is it's a bunch of lines and numbers and colors in boxes, and they're supposed to tell us that Engvall is a good player. His apparently even strength offense is 90%, and his even strength defense is 92%. I don't know what that means. I guess those are like percentiles amongst players, something like that. His projected, I guess, WAR percentage is 74, which I guess is supposed to be good. But I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this guy just seems to just float through games. He doesn't really do much. But then the follow-up tweet from Jay Fresh puts it all into perspective. He goes, he's an effective forechecker, even if he doesn't finish his checks. Well, okay. Well, then I guess you can be that. But if you're not finishing your checks and you don't shoot enough and you don't score enough, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's just he's not going to be an effective fourth liner, and he's not going to fit into the top. Yeah.
I'm happy that you brought that up because it's really just a perfect metaphor for where we are as a sports society.
Right.
And it's not just hockey. I know it's in every other sport. It's just it's way too much homework for you to just say,
yes,
yeah, this is a really, really, really small deal in terms of like the league at large, and for Islander fans, like they would know best. Like, are any Islander fans on Twitter right now saying like, I can't, but like we got to get this guy back in because his expected goal share under Patrick Waugh improved to point.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you look at the quote tweets of that Jay Fresh tweet, for example, it's basically like all these people being like, "Oh, we got to pick this guy up," but Islanders fans are mostly like, "Yeah, I can see that because he doesn't really do much," or people being like, "Lou should have never signed him to that contract." And that's it. There's not a whole lot of people pining for him to be, no, where's he going? Because they know he's not going anywhere. He's going to Bridgeport, or bring him back because they know they can bring him back. Or even if they brought him back, what's he going to do? We've seen this movie before. Okay, we're going to take a break. And we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the upcoming first games of the season. Woohoo! And we're going to do some overly specific predictions. And then we've got a couple of announcements. And we're going to talk about our 300th episode. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a top 100 best buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com's primetime kickoff event. Save up to 50% off select styles, plus doorbusters. Rules and restrictions may apply. Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's Golo.com. Again, Golo.com.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Okay, so the Islanders' first game of the 2024-25 NHL season is on Thursday, October 10th, against the Utah Hockey Club. It is at UBS Arena. Now, we are on record saying that this is stupid. These guys should have just picked a name. This focus group bullshit is ridiculous. I don't know what this guy really wants to be in the league, Friedge. Meanwhile, he can't pick a team. They just ripped off the Winnipeg Jets uniforms. They're playing at the Delta Center, which isn't built for hockey, and they're apparently going to fix it. But right now, for the next couple of years, it's going to look like Barclays Center, which is hilarious to me. Oh, isn't this terrific? Yeah, when the Islanders did it, it was a war crime, and again, they needed to be thrown out of the league. Dominic over at Lighthouse Hockey has called the Utah team the Church of Latter-day Hockey, which is obviously brilliant, but it's a little bit wordy for a podcast. So I am going to take to calling this team the Utah Sister Wives. So to me, right now, they are the Utah Sister Wives. If they want a better name, pick one. You've given me the option. I'm calling you guys the Sister Wives. But yeah, 7:30 on October 10th on Thursday at UBS Arena. And I am terrified of this game. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. To me, a team playing its first ever road game against the Islanders is a guaranteed loss for the Islanders. I've seen this before. I saw the Atlanta Thrashers do it. We saw the Seattle Kraken, I believe, get their first road shutout against the Islanders. It wasn't like a first road game or anything, but that first year, I think the Kraken shut them out or something. This to me is just the kind of game the Islanders lose 10 times out of 10. Now, if they win it, maybe that signals a new era here, which would be great. But I'm maybe just a little too crazy, maybe scared of this game, and I don't like it one bit. So hopefully the Islanders prove me wrong. What do you make of this first game of the season against this quote unquote new opponent that's really an old opponent in new clothes with a new set of records that can be made based on playing the Islanders for this first time.
It's a must win game of the season because and I when the schedule first came out, I looked at the schedule and I was like, okay, the first must win game of the year is a week from that game, their fourth game of the year, which is against St. Louis on the road. Because the Islanders, after the game against Utah, it's a 2-game road trip to Dallas and Colorado.
Yeah, really.
Which is really tough sledding. Like, you lose that Utah game, you're going to be pretty big underdogs in the next 2 games, and then like a pick 'em in the third game. So it's actually a pretty important game right out of the gates. But they do seem to be at least in good stead. And but I mean, the home opener is always one of my favorite nights of the year. I love seeing what like the new pre-game montage looks like. It was especially fun when the Islanders were at the Coliseum and they had that great Jumbotron from the 80s, and you'd be like, oh wow, they're doing a pirate theme this year, and there's Brendan Witz growling at you that he's an Islander,
right?
And one of the best ever was that they had that montage where they had all the players, and this was one of the mercenary teams, so it was a lot of new guys being like, I'm Richard Park and I'm an Islander, and I'm Chris Campoli and I'm an Islander, I'm Rick DiPietro and I'm an Islander, and then he'd like do something like wink or the whatever the 2007 version of the Gritty was on the camera, and then at the end it was like Ted Nolan, and Ted Nolan was just like, I'm Ted Nolan and I'm an Islander. And for some reason, home openers, I always go back to that little montage and think about just how excited I was, like seeing Ted Nolan say that. He got a great pop from the 4,000 people that were at that game, because you wouldn't believe it, but even the home opener wasn't such a hot ticket back in the day, back in those days. But so I like to get there early for those and see those little videos because I am a loser and I want to see them all. But and then the game starts, and last year was Buffalo, right? Yeah. They won 2-1. Was it 2-1 or 3-2, whatever it was? And it was a pretty low event game, and it really looked like, wow. We all left that game being like, if they play like that, like that's the Barry Trotz Islanders. And little did we know that would be the last time we saw the Barry Trotz Islanders last season, right? Like, they held on to a lead. They played a very professional game. They made the Sabres look to work for every inch of ice, and that was it. Like, they really fooled us on that one. So I'm looking forward to overreacting to that game, and knowing the whole world will be rooting for Utah Hockey Club, because they will be everybody's pet team this year. Yeah, with their new owner Ryan Smith, who is I just can't. Him and Michael Andlauer. You said Michael Andlauer. Yeah. Why do we know Michael Andlauer's name? I'll tell you why we know Michael Andlauer's name, because I hear Michael Andlauer's name 100 times a day about different folks.
This game is going to set an early season record for how many times people can say the Islanders are no fun because they didn't let Utah win their first road game or something like that. I'm going to get a little bit more on that later on, but
I really hope Ryan Smith is there.
Right.
I really hope he's at the game.
Yeah.
So I can just be like,
right,
man, I'm so happy to have you in the league. It's great to have a savvy businessman like you in the league, man. Like, all we hear, it's what we've been missing. We've been missing savvy businessmen who think like you do and think and are progressive and all this stuff. Like, it's bizarre stuff. But when the Islanders got their new owners, I don't think there was much of that. No. It was the two guys essentially saved the franchise and
built them an arena that cost $1 billion.
Yeah, no such. Man, it's just good to have those kind of guys in the league. Like, the NHL wants more folks like that in the league. Yeah. But if I see Ryan Smith there, I might have some words for him. Just be like, stay out of my building, please.
Here's the thing. If you see Ryan Smith, you might see Ryan Smith. His team is playing their first road game. I could see him showing up there.
I think he'll be there.
The person you need to keep an eye out for at this home opener is not Ryan Smith, is not an owner of a hockey team, but is in fact dating a very minority owner of our hockey team, and that is Reese Witherspoon. If you see Reese Witherspoon there, please be kind, say hello. She is a huge deal and would immediately join the absolute upper echelons of celebrities to have attended Islanders games. Like,
This is so great.
Yeah.
Someone had tweeted at us like how if I can't remember, I'll have to pull up the exact tweet. I'm sorry to do this on air, but because it was a great question, and it was funny that when the notification came in for the tweet, like I was thinking about it because the picture of her with the Carhartt version of the Islander hat was making its rounds, right? And the tweet came from Jack Plays Bass. Jack Plays Bass. Over under on her appearing at UBS this season, and I was like, oh my god, Reese Witherspoon's going to be heaving a beer can at Vinny Trocheck by Christmas. Like, what? Because once she gets a taste of it, like, come on, like she's going to be all in.
Can't miss.
She's going to be. She'll be in the gods with us, sitting up near the ceiling, eating salty popcorn, and understand the complications of our relationship with someone like Mike Pekka.
Yeah,
like, oh no, he's the assistant coach of that team that we hate. Yeah,
but
I used to love him, and so I'm really excited to see Reese Witherspoon, screaming at Rod Brindamore and such, and throwing stuff on the ice. So happy to have you aboard, Reese. Enjoy your stay. Hope it's a long one. Wish you guys the best in your relationship. And very excited for this new era of Islanders hockey.
As am I. And again, just, we still can't believe that Shakira was at an Islanders game, because it's just very strange to see an international superstar of her level at an Islanders game. Reese Witherspoon is very much on that level. She's not just an actress, she's a producer, director, writer. She has a book club that is very, very popular amongst people, and she knows her shit. And so for her to be involved with the Islanders in any way would be very, very cool. And if she's there, I hope she has a great time. If Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Hockey Club, is there, I hope he has a terrible time. So that's all I can say. As you alluded to, though, Game 2 is only 2 days later. It's Saturday night on the road in Dallas, 8 p.m. Eastern start. And this is, I think, the third year in a row I'm predicting the Stars win the Stanley Cup. I don't know. I go through these phases where I just pick the same team every year. For the longest time, it was Calgary. For like after that 2004 Cup run, I picked them like every year for years and years and years, and they obviously have not won a cup. And I've picked Dallas at least last year. I know for sure. I think maybe the year before. They do not have Jason Robertson early this season, so the Islanders might catch a break there. Again, like you said, we'll talk about the Avalanche game on our next episode, but Monday they're in Colorado against the Avalanche. Oh, and by the way, next Thursday they play the Blues in St. Louis. So, these teams are good. They're, maybe not the Blues, but the Stars and Avalanche are certainly contenders, but they are all dealing with injuries and weirdness now. So the Islanders might be catching them at the right time. And if they can win, let's say 4 out of these first 5 games, they do play the Habs on Saturday, the 19th again. We'll talk about that next episode. If you win these 4 of these first 5, or, even one of these first 2, hey, if you get both of them, great. It's an important thing. And, we joke about having must-win games early in the season, or 82 must-win games, or 82 playoff games. We've done it all. But you just can't let it slide. And something tells me that after this preseason and training camp, in which Patrick Waugh was really sort of, really he had his foot on the gas the whole time, and was really cracking the whip on these guys. I have a feeling that they're not going to want to get off on a slow foot. So we'll have to see what happens. Yeah. But yes, when I realized that they were playing Dallas in Game 2, I was like, oh shit, really? That sucks.
I can tell you this. Like, I have no idea how they're going to go on Thursday in that home opener. I'm choosing to believe that they'll win, but I can already fast forward to myself. I know exactly how I'm going to feel after that Dallas game. Like, right. They lost 4-1. They were with them for like the first 35 minutes, and just like that. Yeah. The hockey season comes back. We're excited for hockey to come back, but it's going to suck at the same time, right? And I can already tell you exactly that feeling of playing a decent game, and then the other team just being better than you, and pulling away and winning like a casual 4-1 hockey game, and then you have the rest of the night to think about it, and then you also have the Colorado Avalanche on deck, and you're like, oh God, like, if we fall to 1-2, that puts a ton of pressure already on us. First, that St. Louis game, and if we, God forbid, we lose that, we come home 1-3, and then all of a sudden the Canadiens game is a must win, and we're supposed to beat Montreal, but we're 1-3, and it's not a guarantee, and the Islanders could win that first game and then lose that game in Dallas, and those thoughts will be racing through my head, and I will be 2 weeks down the line thinking about this, and then I will be 6 weeks down the line from there thinking about all the the flack that Islander fans will have to deal with from other people being like, we told you that this team was mid. Like, yeah. So, yeah, I'm very excited to have hockey back. Is all I'm trying to say. I'm very excited for all those thoughts to come racing back in through my head. But I just really would I would be so happy if the Islanders can just put together a good start.
Yeah.
I know they've had good starts. They had good starts under Trotz, that 2019-20 season that ended up being very weird, and they basically gave it all back at some point, but was a really good start. But I'm talking like the first 8 to 10 games. I want that 2001, 2002 start so badly.
11.
I want ties to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. 11-1, 1-1. Give the Islanders a tie in there so they could get that 11-1, 1-1 back. And because it feels like it's been so long since they got out of the gates with like a 7-1-2 start. And you're just like, man, it feels good. It just feels so good.
Yeah. They need to put to bed a lot of these sort of like, even playing the Habs is always kind of a weird thing. Playing out in Colorado is always a weird thing. I know they've beaten the Blues a couple of times in St. Louis, and Dallas Islanders games are always weird, but like they need to put that stuff to bed and just walk into Dallas. It's not going to be easy, but get a win and get out of there. Like we have to kind of get into that mode because it is amazing how you go from being like, oh yeah, it's off season. When is hockey back again? You're looking at the schedule to being like, oh my God, it's back. And I can see them losing all of these games.
Right. Yeah, we're 3-4-3 already in my head. Even that the season hasn't started yet, but we're already 3-4-3, and it's keeping me up at night. I'm worried about Anthony Duclair in a slump. And it's like
first back-to-back is October 25th and 26th. Devils in Newark, and then home to Florida. So I mean, that right there is already scary. So
yeah,
that's
not good.
But enjoy the game, everybody. If you're going to the game on Thursday, enjoy it. It is against Utah, so make sure that, I know, listen, the players know they're all old Coyotes, so you're not really teaching anybody anything, but make sure that anybody watching at home in Utah or elsewhere gets to see what a real NHL crowd is like. And that usually involves just pure hatred raining down from every section onto their boys, and make sure that they know it very well. And hopefully they get bloodied and battered and leave very disappointed. So
yeah, imagine you're a new hockey fan out there in Utah, and your first experience with the New York Islanders is a quick flash to the crowd, and there's Reese Witherspoon. Like, oh man, this must be a pretty fancy bougie team they got going over there in the suburbs of New York City. These guys, maybe they play in the Hamptons or something. Like,
I was gonna say it might be like Scott Mayfield drilling Nuke Clapton, Clayton Keller, and how he gets all taken off, with the help of a couple of teammates. And it was like, wait, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. You can always do that. But again, as Butch Goring pointed out, by the way, in that last preseason game against the Rangers, it's not like Utah's ever had hockey before. He won a championship out there for the IHL. I know that was like 30 years ago, but still, he was apoplectic that they're not just the Grizzlies. Why not call them the Utah Grizzlies, Brendan? And honestly, I can't disagree. He's right.
I can't either.
But I guess technically there are Grizzlies. There's the Memphis Grizzlies, so maybe they might have a problem with it. But in any event, hopefully it's a good game. Again, hopefully the Islanders get off on the right foot. They've had pretty good luck against the Coyotes for a while now, especially at home. So hopefully that continues against Utah and their knockoff, Marshall's TJ Maxx style Winnipeg Jets jerseys that they wear. And then Saturday is going to be against Dallas.
It's funny that you're the only one who I've actually heard like criticize the jerseys. I think that I agree, and I agree with you. But it's because like it's the same thing with this Amazon documentary, right? Yeah. Like it's the people that got the advanced screening are like, oh, you fans are going to. This is I'm not a fan, so I know it's not for me. It's not made. It's made for you guys because I'm not a fan once again.
Right.
But you guys are gonna love this stuff. Like you just. And if I went on Twitter and I was like, all right, this show stinks. And I watched the first like 8 minutes of it, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like this sucks. and I don't mean it like. And I should say it sucks in relative to the way it was. Right. The way it was the hype machine. It sucks in relative to the hype machine that was behind it. Like you got this is stuff you've never seen before. Like
this is cutting edge. This is so different.
A hockey player yelling at his teammates, throwing his helmet because they just lost the Stanley Cup final game. Like I could go onto YouTube right now and watch that Same exact thing. Like
Right.
I watched Scott Stevens send Paul Korea to a different universe.
Right. Yeah.
Like and the fallout from all that. Like we've seen this kind of stuff before.
Yeah.
Like and crazier shit.
Right.
Like this isn't crazy stuff.
Dude, we
but
had we had a GM make his own goalie cry in arbitration. Who cares about Connor McDavid yelling on camera? Who cares? We saw Anders Lee freaking punch a hole in a door on the way out to a game. He wasn't even playing; he was hurt, and he still punched a hole in a door. Like,
yeah, but that's the stuff that's gonna make new
Right.
fans.
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
isn't just for diehards. This is for people who you hand them a hockey stick and they think you're like it's a weapon. They start dueling with you because they've never seen one before. Like,
Right.
what are you talking about?
But they
Yeah, watching Zach Hyman and walk around and get like sushi is really that's what's good. They're just like us. Yeah, I know they're just like us. Like if I go to the King Cullen, I might run into Casey Cizikas. Like he eats asparagus and I eat asparagus, and we get it from the same produce counter.
Right.
But it's but the point is like no one has been able to say like a bad thing about Utah because like you got to treat them like this.
Right.
But I'm with you. Like it seems it's this Ryan Smith guy for being such a genius really kind of flubbed the the year one here with in terms of just gussying up the joint. So I really hate this team, and I like the Coyotes, and I really already hate Utah, and I hate their owner, and he's like one of 4 owners in the league that I hate, and he's the owner of Utah. Like, why do I hate this guy? Because of these folks.
Right. I can't get over the party line that they want to wait a year to get it right with the name. Give me a break. Like, just come on. I mean, every other team name has an insane story attached to it that, people hated the Penguins. What is a Pittsburgh Penguin? That's a flightless fat bird. Why would I name my hockey team that? Well, guess what? It worked out after a while. Sure, they needed a Mario Lemieux to show up, but like nobody's saying that about the Penguins now. The Rangers, people seem to forget, are the Rangers because the guy who owned them was named Tex, and he wanted them to be called Texas Rangers. And the NHL at the time was like, you can't do that. And he's like, okay, well, fine. We're the New York Rangers then. That's why they're the Rangers. Like, there was no focus grouping. There was no like, was this the right name? No, he just liked the name Rangers. Like,
gotta get some consultants in here.
Right. The Islanders are the Islanders because nobody knew where Long Island was. So calling them the Long Island whatevers didn't mean a damn thing to anybody in 1972. Because unless you lived between Boston and Washington, you never heard of Long Island. So that was the thing. It's just all these. I mean, the Avalanche is the 90th name of all time, but it works. Right? We've all gotten used to it now. So I can't. I don't understand why these guys couldn't pick an animal and go with it. And honestly, like,
pick an animal and go with it.
I think the real reason, and we'll get off of this in a second and go on to our overly specific predictions. The real reason is because the NHL had to bend over backwards so that fucking criminal what's his name, Alex Murillo could keep the. I almost threw Angels owner Arte Moreno under the bus. I apologize.
Sorry, Arte.
Yeah, so this guy can keep the rights to a team that nobody is going to build an arena. He's still trying to build an arena there. Nobody wants to work with him. It's never going to happen. He's going to eventually relinquish the rights to somebody else, and they will be a new Coyotes. So these guys could have just been the Utah Coyotes. That's it. But because we had to bend over backwards for this scumbag who's never done a goddamn thing for the NHL ever, now we got to have the Utah Hockey Club. Like, come on. And I mean, it's all because of the Washington football team, which had an incredibly awful name for the longest time. And, okay, that's a little bit different. Like they had to focus group that one because there was like 70 years of history there. These guys don't know history. The Utah fans should just be happy whoever shows up. So anyway, that's my rant on that. So welcome to the NHL Utah Sister Wives. I hope you have an absolutely terrible first road game and the Islanders make you cry and make your fans wonder, maybe I shouldn't get into this whole hockey thing if these guys are going to be so mean all the time. Okay. So that's the first 2 games, and Dallas Stars are very good. That's all I got to say. I'm still picking Dallas to win Stanley Cup. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be against the Islanders. Never know. Okay. We've teased it long enough. We've done this a couple of times now. We're going to get into some overly specific predictions for the year. This is just stuff that comes off the top of our heads and we try and have a little bit of fun with. We never revisit them. Maybe we should one of these days.
Yeah.
I always forget.
I know. The only one that I still remember I said was that Nick Leddy was going to come back to the Islanders.
Still possible.
Yeah, it's still possible. Still possible.
So I have a couple here. We don't need to get to all of them, but do you want to start? Do you have one off the top of your head that you want to go with?
Yeah. Okay. I guess I can I'll go first
Yeah.
here. My first super specific prediction for the New York Islanders is that when they play the Montreal Canadiens on October the 19th, so that's what 5-6 games into the season for them, and the Canadiens, it'll roughly be about the same for them. The Canadiens will be in a rough stead, and there will be not one but 2 articles written about whether or not the Canadiens should have gotten or should do what they can to shift from Martin St. Louis to Patrick Roy as head coach.
Oh, wow.
It's only going to take 13, how many days into the season will that be? 9 days into the season for us to get our first looks at articles. And these are, I'm not saying like, fringe sites. I'm talking like RDS or Sportsnet or maybe a mention on a big podcast. That's
just asking the question, right?
Yes. Just that's it. That's my first super specific prediction.
I could see that happening because I mean, at some point, San Luis leash is going to start getting tighter, right? Like it's got. If they miss the playoffs again this year, which I mean, with all due respect, they probably will. I think people are gonna start being like, Marty's a great guy and a good player and a good coach, but we need to get some results in here, and he'll be on the 2-year plan at that point. And they might be starting to win, especially if the Islanders do make the playoffs. And we'll get to my prediction in a minute, and do play the way I think that they're going to play. I think there might be some people that might do that exact same thing. We'll see. Okay, my first one made a lot more sense before the events of this afternoon, but I guess it still kind of makes sense. So I'm just going to read it out as is. My first overly specific prediction is about the Islanders, and I think that Bo Horvat will score more power play goals this season than Pierre Engvall has total goals this season. And obviously he's not going to score any goals for the Islanders if he's playing for Bridgeport. So I could say Oliver Wahlstrom in this spot too. I just feel like Bo is going to be a monster on the power play, and I feel like he's going to have a lot of power play goals. And I don't think that I'm still not convinced that Engvall or Wahlstrom will, change their ways or change their game. So that's the way I kind of look at it this year. And I mean, if Bo ends up with 12 power play goals, and can you see Engvall and Wahlstrom having less regular goals and total goals than that?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm with that one. And I'll stay in that same kind of universe because this is one I kind of pointed out the other day or a couple weeks ago on one of our shows, which is that I think that Matt Barzal is about to have his true prime of his career. I think the next year, and hopefully the one after that and one after that and after that. Like I think we're going to talk about he's going to be talked about as like an elite player in the league. But specifically for Matt Barzal, I think Matt Barzal hits 100 points this year. Does not get named to the Frozen Face-Off for Four Nations Frozen. Four Nations. What's it called? The Four Nations Face-Off. Yeah. Doesn't get named to Team Canada, the Four Nations Face-Off. And the day that those rosters come out, or the game immediately after those rosters come out, he scores a hat trick with an overtime winner.
Yeah.
In an homage to the now retired Kyle Oposo.
That is one of my favorite memories of that era, was him not getting named to the was it the Olympic team or the All-Star team?
The Olympic team, 2014.
Scored the overtime winner, and he gave the interview to Shannon Hogan, and the place is going USA.
We'll be singing "Oh Canada." Yeah, that's all right. I'll add on to the prediction. We'll get even more specific.
That's
the really fans are singing "Oh Canada," and there's one person in that crowd who's so thrilled that he's not going to that stupid fucking tournament, and it's me.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just take those weeks off. I don't need to hear about this. Here's the question though: who gets picked in Barzal's stead? I'm gonna go out there, and I don't mind the player at all, but you know who they would totally pick in place of him would be like Ryan O'Reilly, who is a fine player. Don't get me wrong, but would it surprise you if like Barzal's stats are like way beyond what O'Reilly's is doing? But they wanted to get or Stamkos, one or the other. And it's like, okay, yeah, those guys are really, really good, but I bet Barzal is probably having a better season. But that would be funny. And I don't think any Islander is going to get picked for any of those teams. Even Nelson, I could see Brock Nelson totally getting overlooked for the Team USA for that thing. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, no, that's a good one. And I'm already getting mad just thinking about it, actually. Okay. Sticking with the Islanders. Here's my prediction for, again, we haven't talked about him really, but he did come back. Ilya Sorokin looks like he's going to be healthy for game one. He took some shots in practice and did not play any preseason games. So hopefully that doesn't affect him at all. But here's my prediction for Ilya Sorokin's season. Last year was not a great one for him. The year before, he was a Vezina Trophy winner. We found out this offseason he had back surgery. My prediction is that Ilya Sorokin's season this year is totally fine. He's not a Vezina Trophy finalist. He's not, giving up bad goals like he did last year. I think he'll be totally, totally fine. And people would be like, yeah, his season was okay. Like, wasn't, he's not giving up goals that he shouldn't be giving up, but he's also not like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that, which he was doing basically with regularity a couple years ago. Now, next year, I think he might be a Vezina finalist and maybe even win it. But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to pull it off this year. But I think this year, when we look back, it'll be like, yeah, he was good. He was fine. Nothing like that. So that's my.
I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more.
Yeah, me too.
In the holster. One is that this is off the ice stuff. Both Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson and Alex Romanov and Noah Dobson, not on the four of them on the same day, but Nelson and Palmieri on the same day get an extension, and a very appropriate extension for both players that the greater hockey world will hate and make fun of, whereas Islander fans will be like, I'm fucking thrilled. That's perfect. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you guys next season. So Nelson and Palmieri will get done on the same day, and Dobson and Romanov will also get done on the same day, a different day from Palmieri and Nelson, but Lou will get his tidy pieces of business done on the same day.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And every one of them, but Dobson's, will be for too long and too much money. As always. Hold on a second. So yeah, that's for sure. Definitely that those will be looked upon poorly, but I think we'll be like, oh, those were great. And then like, oh, they're just bringing the guys back together again. Meanwhile, the Islanders will have three new guys next season on top of those guys. So we'll have to see. But no, I completely forgot about that. But yeah, they're definitely gonna. I think they could re-sign all the guys. Of those four, I think probably Palmieri is maybe the most iffy, but I do think that he'll eventually come back. Okay, to a guy who did not sign a contract, I do think that Matt Martin will sign with the Islanders, but it'll be around Thanksgiving. And I do think that he will play his 1,000th game in the season finale for the Islanders. If he signs, I think I figured it out. If he signs around November 23rd, they will have 60 games left, and he needs 45 to get to 1,000. And I could totally see him playing 45 games in 45 and 60 games, basically. So they give him a night off every once in a while. They play Gauthier, they play Wahlstrom, they play whoever, and Martin comes in, once or twice a week and plays, and then gets to that 1,000th game. Now, is this overly sentimental? Yes. Would it be maybe a little bit sketchy from Lou's end? Probably. But do we all want to see Matt Martin get to 1,000 games? Absolutely we do. And there's no rush. He ain't going anywhere, right? He lives here. He's not going to sign with anybody else. He's on the shadow team now, as we confirmed before. So that's my prediction for Matt Martin. Thanksgiving, we'll all be sitting around and we'll all get a tweet saying that the Islanders have signed Matt Martin from a tryout to a regular contract. And it'll be worth, the bare minimum or whatever it is. So
yeah.
There you go.
I mean, I'd love to be in the building for that. Okay. Another one who didn't sign a contract for the Islanders, but I think this is my biggest long shot on the board. But it's also one that I find the funniest. It's actually the last one I'll give is I think my favorite one. But this one is would be hilarious to me. Robert Bortuzzo, acquired by the New York Islanders for future considerations at the trade deadline as Utah Hockey Club.
Wow.
Falls out of the playoff picture. Bortuzzo comes back to Long Island to play the Braden Coburn role, or you could even say to play the Robert Bortuzzo role.
I was going to say, wait a minute, it's a role he's played before. I completely forgot to mention him when we were going off on Utah before, but yeah, that is
a tribute video. It's coming.
Definitely. And what they should do before the game, and if anybody in Islanders game ops is listening to this, we give you permission to play the episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast, in which Robert Bortuzzo is named Weirdest Islander of the Year, which we recorded with our friend John Zella. So
he could become a two-time winner.
Absolutely.
If this one holds true.
Well, right now, I'm glad you brought this up. I should have brought this up too. Again, I hate when we have too much stuff to get to because I always forget. Right now, there is already a candidate for Weirdest Islander of the Year, and his name is Keith Kincaid, and he is signed with the Charlotte Checkers. He came in on his PTO. He was there for rookie camp, 35-year-old at rookie camp, played 0 preseason games, played in practice, and then signed with Charlotte at the end of preseason. So he is definitely eligible for Weirdest Islander of the Year. And if he wins it, that would mean that, the Islanders had a pretty stable roster, but keep an eye open for that. But yeah, Robert Bortuzzo is the first ever Weirdest Islander of the Year, and they're going to see him in game 1 again versus Utah, and I could see him coming back. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, here's my last one, and this is kind of in your area here. My specific prediction: this one is definitely going to come true, maybe sooner rather than later. Some national writer, or maybe even a team writer, but some notable hockey writer will at some point ask, most likely on Twitter, perhaps in a podcast somewhere, this specific question. They will say, when did the Islanders become fun? To which we will all reply, they've always been fun. You guys are just assholes. Like that's so, because if you've been watching these games in preseason, I know you haven't, but like they are playing a very up-tempo style that they have never played before. Like this is not the Barry Trotz Islanders. And some people are going to be writing, they play that staunch defensive style. And they're going to be watching these games going like, wait a minute, what happened to these guys? This isn't what they didn't used to play like this. And somebody's going to be like, wow, that team looks pretty fun. When did that happen? And we're going to be like, oh, they've always been fun. So that's my thing. Somebody will ask that question. They're like, actually, that was kind of a fun game for the Islanders. I don't know how that happened. Lou allows this, and it's like, yeah, because he's presided over teams that play this way. Because again, people are just assholes. So there you go. That's my last one. Do you have any? Do you have another one?
I do have one.
Okay.
That I wanted to save for last, anyways, and it's that the Islanders. I'm not gonna look up the exact date, but when the Islanders and the Maple Leafs play at UBS Arena for the first time, they do a short tribute video for the artist / coach, formerly known as Lane Lambert, but now known as Lane Lambert.
Oh man!
They do a tribute video. He is given most people don't react to it at all because it's during a TV timeout or and by the way, I think he deserves one because not only was he a head coach here, and brought them to a playoff berth, but he was also the assistant coach for those Eastern Conference playoff runs. So I'm not saying this as a tongue in cheek. Like I think he actually totally deserves one.
Yeah.
So it's that Lane Lambert gets a tribute video. Most people don't notice, but there are a smattering of boos near the press box. Maybe a couple of the upper bowl sections are overserved, which does happen on occasion. There's a couple boos. Maybe someone yells Lane Lambert sucks, even and of course the journalists up there will be offended by that at our Americanization of this man's name. But he will be booed a little bit. One fan will maybe yell something, and the outrage on Twitter for this Maple Leafs assistant coach will come because will emanate because one of their do we have a Master Leafs Theater Core 4 yet? Because I'm pretty sure we can definitely come up with a Core 4, but one of the members of the Core 4, and off the top of my head, that would be a Luke Fox Jukebox, Chris Johnston, Jonas Siegel, and James Myrtle.
I would say that, yeah.
And then like Josh Cloak would be there. There's always that argument. Well, it's actually a Core 5 because you forgot Morgan Riley. That's Josh Cloak. So one of the Core 5 or Core 4 will tweet like, "Wow, a typical Long Island welcome back for Lane Lambert." John Tavares knows all about that one, and people will overreact even though literally nothing happened. But as we've now found out from an Amazon documentary or hockey jerseys in Utah, if these guys say something, it is now gospel, and people will react to it as if it is 100% true. And Islander fans will feel the wrath of the hockey mob for booing Lane Lambert, the associate coach of the assistant coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs and their north-south. And I will say one other thing to get in there, and this is a joke for an audience of 6, maybe, but one of my favorite parts of the first 8 minutes of the Amazon doc that I've watched is that there is a great setting shot. That's what they call it, right? When the
establishing shot. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So of the Ford Performance Center, and I was just cracking my ass up. I wanted nothing more than to just go back and listen to the Brendan Shanahan press conference when he name drops the Ford Performance Center, going through the minute by minute of when they fired Kyle Dubas. But it's a great shot of the Ford, and it let me tell you, that place is as beautiful as you can think.
You actually dropped that in our group chat, and I saved it, and I meant to text you and be like, I'm going to use this for every Master Leaf Theater going forward. It's just going to be that shot of the Ford Performance Center.
You know what it made me think?
Really,
this just as this is an Islander thought, so I think I don't feel bad wasting more of our listeners' time here talking about the fucking Ford Performance Center. But you know what I realized? I've seen so many shots in different versions of like the Amazon or like Leafs social media behind the scenes or whatever. And it's not just the Leafs, it's other teams too, of players sitting in like a movie theater where they're like breaking down film. And all I can think of, where the hell do the Islanders go for these meetings? Like, and maybe they don't, like UBS is now the place, and there's probably a part of it that we've never seen, and that they go and they have these meetings, they go over tape, but these are like big rooms with like really comfy, like recliner seats that you see in movie theaters seats, now. Yeah. And I'm just thinking about how, in my mind, I'm imagining that the Ford Performance Center or buildings of its ilk were probably built at the time the Islanders were still at Nassau Coliseum. And I'm just thinking about, could you imagine like Mikhail Grabovski and Lubo and like that version of the Islanders, or even a couple years earlier, like Brian Straight and Andrew McDonald? They were probably like, all right, guys, gather around. Like, we're in the locker room, like gather around. And the projector that they used to wheel into your class, like when your teacher was hungover, like, we're going to watch the moon landing now on this projector. Like, and they're like, we got the Flyers coming. We do have tape from them somewhere here. Let me put it into this VCR. They'll be like, dude, like, that's, I'm watching John LeClaire play. Like, I think you got the wrong tape in there. He's not on the team anymore.
I'm almost certain that UBS Arena does have one, or it's at Northwell Health, because I mean that's been built out. But I'm almost certain Barclays Center had one too when they were there, because the Nets have one for sure. Although there's obviously a lot less players on the Nets than there are on the Islanders. But you're right. Like when they played at the Coliseum, they just had a locker room. And they just,
like, all right, go into section 112. We're gonna put it on the jumbotron,
or they just wheeled in a big ass TV, like, or just like mounted it to the wall, like you have in your basement or something like that. So, but yeah, no, I think now the Islanders are very much on par with what other teams have. But the difference is Lou Lamoriello would rather kill somebody than have somebody bring a camera in there. You're never going to see it unless it's like a tour, like when they might be doing like an off season tour for like season ticket holders or something. You might get that, but you're not going to watch the Islanders watching tape in that thing. And maybe if they made it to the Stanley Cup final and the league made them do it, maybe, but I'm almost certain that probably somewhere in the bowels of UBS Arena that room exists. If you've seen this room, please let us know. But I'm glad you brought this up. One last Leafs note before we get on to the end here, where we're going to talk about episode 300. So this summer we had a lot of fun with John Tavares losing the Maple Leafs captaincy and the subsequent stories that came out. And at the Patreon, we did a very specific standalone episode of Master Leaf Theater, which was called The Metronome of Professionalism. And it was for patrons only. And we went through all of the post press conference stories and had them read by our friend Michael Paul Smith, who did a fantastic job. This was easily one of the funniest, if not the funniest single episode we've ever done. And it was a Patreon only thing. And I said at the end of that episode that if John Tavares does not have a contract extension in place with the Maple Leafs by the time they play their first game on Wednesday, I was going to release that to the public for everybody. And so that is still very much in effect. Please keep your fingers crossed. And in the next 3 days, this man does not sign a contract extension, because if he doesn't, it's going to make that episode much, much, much funnier. And so I was thinking about making this little announcement today, and I'm like, I feel a little bit like the Joker like, Batman, if you don't reveal yourself by midnight, I'm gonna, put my Joker venom in the reservoir at Gotham City. Like, no, it's not that, but it is a very, very, very funny episode. I want more people to read it, to listen to it. Our patrons, they got the first dibs there, and everybody seemed to really love it. And so it's still out there, because if he hasn't signed that contract extension, that's going to be a big story, and we are going to be all over it. So keep your eye open for that. Okay. Or your ears open, I should say, for that. Okay, last thing, real quick. This is episode 300. It is a moment to celebrate. Obviously, we've done way more than 300 episodes. We've done special episodes and summer episodes and bonus episodes and things like that. But for an official episode 300, this is it. I wanted to set it up so that this would be the first episode of the season. And that's a pretty huge accomplishment. If you are a podcast listener like myself, you go back, not a lot of them get to this sort of neighborhood. And there's a reason for that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication. You have to be into the grind and do everything. For us, it's started out every 2 weeks, and now it's every week. And we are still having fun. We still love it. We still love doing it. We couldn't watch the Islanders and then not have this. It's just such a part of our lives now. And it's been a lot of fun. And we thank you for listening. Thank you for coming along for the ride. If you're a patron, thank you for your support and for your dough, as I say every time before we do our mailbag episodes. And that's about it. It's I was gonna go back and listen to some older episodes. I ended up doing it anyway, but we've come a long way, and this is season 9. And I think for a sports podcast, that's really very special. Listen, it's a sports podcast. We're not like curing diseases or exploring space or anything, but 300 is a big number. Like, not a lot of sports podcasts get to this and beyond this. So we're proud, we're thrilled, we're excited, and we can't wait to do more. And that's all I got to say. What are your thoughts on episode 300 here?
I couldn't agree more. I always surprise myself with how excited I get to do this every Sunday.
Right.
And as you can imagine, with a young kid and then family and whatever, it's like a little bit of a tricky dance, just finding an hour and a half every Sunday or so to make sure it happens. But that's really the hardest part of it for me. You're the one who does most of the or all the heavy lifting. So I just have to find a way to get Isla to take a nap or go to sleep in time to do this. But it is funny. I just get, it's not just how excited I get for recording it and sitting on the other side of the microphone from you, but also the couple days after the podcast and talking to people who listen to it, because I've developed quite a bit of friendships with folks who listened and have listened for years, and just talking on Twitter or texting or whatever. And it seems like every year, like a couple more people, I meet a couple more new people through it. So it's really, I don't know, it's just been a very healthy thing, I think. I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, like this, it's been a very healthy endeavor to do this, and I don't say that lightly. It's been great. Like it feels like I feel very renewed after every episode. Very excited to watch the Islanders. Sometimes I feel sad about what the Islanders are doing. I'll never forget specific episodes, and not just like harrowing ones where, the captain deserts them like a goddamn coward. But like when they lose 7 games in a row after we're like, yeah, the Islanders are back. Like they lost to the Kings last night, but we don't give a shit because we're over that. We're overreacting to losses, and then the next thing you know, we're recording again, being like, "Screw this fucking team! I hate this team! Like, we should have known better."
Losing an easy, what should have been an easy game against the Washington team that would have just clinched a playoff spot, and being like,
the Sharks game, the Sharks game, the entire season with Doug Weight, like it's just, it's in it's truly a healthy, joyful experience, and it's a good thing. It like kicks off the week for me. And one of the thing I always miss the most about a hockey season is that it's not just the games. The games are great, but the games are just like the kind of jumping point to the next few days, right? Like the Islanders play, and then that kind of sets the table for your mood as a fan for the next couple of days. And that that's the stuff that happens in between the games is what I think really is the best part of being a fan, and to be able to have one of those things be this podcast is so much fun. And it really is like, and I I always think about how now, we're 9 seasons in, and we've built up a relationship with the listeners and our audience to the point where people don't not only do people not care that we spend, probably averages out to like 8 minutes an episode talking about Jonas Siegel or the Maple Leafs or the Amazon shit that has nothing to really do with the Islanders. But not only do people put up with it, but they enjoy it and get into the conversation and say, I've been thinking this. I read that article at Sportsnet and it made me want to puke.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. And it's such a niche, weird thing to be obsessed with.
Yeah.
And to know that there are other people who understand that and get us. It really has made me have a little bit more faith in humanity. Maybe not as much faith in like the Islanders, but just like humanity in general. That I feel heard.
Yeah.
When that stuff happens. So
definitely. Well, yeah, I think healthy is a good way to put it, because like if we didn't have this, right, and the Islanders lost that game against the Caps, that one, or that Sharks game or that Devils game where they blew that, pick any one of the blown leads or if the Stadium Series game. Like if we had watched that and had no outlet for the rage and anger and confusion that happened, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, again, we say this all the time. Our wives are supportive and fantastic and loving, and we couldn't, ask for 2 better partners in life, but they just wouldn't get it. Like my wife would just be like, "Oh, that stinks," like, yeah, but like, that's it. Like, that's all she can say. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, I know, but like, I would have to go back to 30 years of baggage and all this kind of stuff for people to really understand. And so having this, and like you said, I mean, with the audience, we've talked to people, we've met people, there are not, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but like there are podcasts now that are done fantastic podcasts that are done by people who listen to us. And like, it's a weird feeling knowing that like we've sort of made this thing a thing, and they're like, yeah, this is good to talk about this. And maybe I'll put this out there and maybe other people will feel this way, because people do feel this way. And the Maple Leafs thing is a perfect example. Like we hate those guys. And the people that cover the Leafs will never know to the extent that we hate them, because they don't listen to this, but we do. And we hear about this stuff all the time, and, listening to 32 Thoughts, and it's like, there's 32 thoughts and 18 of them are about the Leafs. Like, I don't want to hear this. I want to hear about my team. And we just, this is the place to hear about your team. I wish we had more to give you as far as inside information goes, but, we do the best we can because we're fans too. And I like that, we've kind of kept that sort of vibe. We're not insiders, we're not experts. We're just fans, and we're watching the same way you are. And all we can do is talk it out and have some fun and try and make it as palatable as possible. And so that's what all we've been doing. And so, like I said, no plans on stopping. We're going to keep on going as long as we can, as long as we're here. And this has been so much fun. And the other thing too is like, just from our perspective too, you and I are both creative guys. You're a writer for a living. I've done the blogging thing. This is also satisfying from that level too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
To have this sort of creative outlet like this is also very, very gratifying, and it's satisfying.
It's I don't know, sad is a word maybe, but like you don't understand how many times a week now when we're in season, I'll be driving my car as we're game happens the next day in the morning. I'm maybe dropping Isla off or something, and I'm trying to like gather my thoughts,
right? Yeah,
for the podcast, and I'll catch myself doing it because I'll be like, you need to jot this down,
right? Yeah, I have the Google Doc always up, So.
I've never done it, and it's so frustrating because I'm like, nah, like I have an argument with myself in my own head, being like, no, I'll be fine. I'm definitely not going to remember this unbelievable thought I have about Keith O'Coin. Like, I'm like, how could I ever forget it? 6 minutes later, it's gone.
Yeah.
But
no.
like to your point, like, but then I get on the show and like I'll like kind of like stir all day trying to like recapture it. And then I sit down and we talk, and no matter what, like almost we've done 300 episodes and maybe close to 100 extras or whatever it is. And I would say I've never left an episode. Like there'd be times I'd be like, damn it, I wish I said this. But like I've never left an episode being like, oh man, like that wasn't fun, or not even fun. It was like I'm a better person after every episode, even if I'm mad at myself for forgetting those things. And I think that's to your point about being, a creative type. And I always get really excited to hear what people have to say. I know there's I always get texts because you have quite a talent for it, which is you kind of did one with the Utah stuff. You're such a stoic, level-headed person that when you go on your rants and you have a great Northeast cursing talent that like New York tri-state area mouth on you, that when you do go on one, I will always get texts from people being like, God, that rant from Dan was great. Like, and I when you did that, like the first thought that popped in my head was like, I can't wait to get those texts in the morning when people start listening. It'd be like, I loved hearing Dan call Ryan Smith a motherfucker. Like this owner of the Utah Hockey Club, who we have no reason to hate on the show, that you will never hear. Like these two hockey teams couldn't have less to do with one another. Outside of the fact of like, the Coyotes of course had the relocation ship, but like it's that stuff always it makes me happy. And like I said, I always feel better after every episode, and that's why I think healthy is the right word. And I will also say that when I told my wife Emily that it was our 300th episode right before we started, she said, "Oh really?" And that was it. So
that sounds about right. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Right. Well, so that means like 300 Sundays or Mondays in which you were in a room talking to me and not talking to her. So like, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I go downstairs, my wife is asleep, so I'm sure she. So for her, it's probably feels like it's been 600 episodes because I'm usually up here. But no, it's been a lot of fun, and again, we can't thank everybody enough for listening to us and listening to our rants and our silly jokes. And that's another thing I'm very proud of, is like, I really do feel like if you are a fan and you find us and you jump on at any point, it's not like we are awash in inside jokes and like a language. We're not really speaking a language, I think, that most people don't understand. What we speak is Islanders fan, basically. And so if you're an Islanders fan, I think you'll find us and you'll probably agree with what we say. And again, I'm sure we're not the only Islanders fans thinking like, man, how come this Utah guy and this Utah team is getting a lot of attention when my team doesn't? Or we're not the only Islanders fans being like, I don't think they're running it back. It certainly feels like they got a bunch of new guys. Why are people keep writing that? So again, it is like you said, it's been, if the one thing, if we've learned anything, it's that there are a lot of people that think the same way that we do. And so, we end up on the same wavelength. And if we can help you feel a little bit better about the team through us, then we've done our job. And, we can, again, sleep better and know that we did it. And, it's very satisfying and we have a good time. And I can't wait for 300 more.
Right. Yeah. The only thing missing now is the Islanders to actually do something stupid and like go to a Stanley Cup final or win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Because,
I don't know. God,
I've thought about that so many times in my life, and I've been asked that question and like, what would you do? And like, I can't even.
Yeah,
it's like the thought of like forever or time being limitless or the universe being limitless. Like I just can't even like wrap my head around it at all. But
if people think I'm going off on rants now, wait until that happens, and then then what's going to happen is other people who've never listened to the show are going to be like, I wonder what an Islanders podcast sounds like if they're going to the Cup final.
There's one guy ranting and the other guy I'm pretty sure is self-immolating. He's on fire right now in his It is den.
Why are these guys talking about the Leafs when their team is going?
The Islanders just won the Stanley Cup, and they're reading an article about Nick Robertson to classical music.
That's exactly what would happen. But anyway, speaking of like Leafs and other things too, the first episode. So the other great thing about doing this is it's allowed us to expand and again be creative. And Weird Islanders obviously is the number one thing there. And first episode of season 4 of Weird Islanders will premiere on October 18th. That's a Friday, or they're going to come out every other Friday bi-weekly again. So, and we've passed the 50 episode mark of that too. And so if we get another, I think it's 19 episodes this season, we'll be even close to 100 there. And I mean, we have 300 of this and 100 of a spinoff. I mean, that is a body of work that I think a lot of podcasts.
We're basically Frasier. Cheers and Frasier.
Yeah, that's true. That's I didn't even think about that. Or Perfect Strangers and Family Matters. Two important shows like that as spinoffs. But yeah, so I mean, again, we can't thank you enough for listening. We're honored and proud to still be here. Still, people are still listening and haven't gotten sick of us yet. And we're just going to keep on going. Okay. With that, we've done a long episode here, but it's season 1, episode 1 basically of this new season. So I figured it's okay. Become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content. Join for free to get announcements and our weekly release calendar. You'll find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. They have a new album out called God Looks Out for Fools. Check that out. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop vintageicehockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Michael Leboff, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
You can find me at the Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Read and listen to his work at Action Network and at the New York Post. Any final thoughts on the end of the preseason, the beginning of the regular season, or the waiving of Pierre Engvall, or any of these other topics, the million topics that we've talked, or episode 300, or any of the other things that we've talked about tonight?
I just once again, it is a sincere thank you. I do hope that is one thing that we do come across as when we talk about how we feel about the relationship we have with the audience that tunes into our show about the Islanders, about the Maple Leafs every week. We are, if nothing else, 100% genuine. It is something that I love doing, and a big part of the reason I love doing it is because I love meeting and talking to new people, and this show has brought in some really fun, meaningful friendships in my life in a weird way. So if you are someone who listens, like, I'm always happy to talk Islanders and about the show or anything like that. And I know Dan does too. We love hearing from you. And finally, Reese Witherspoon, if you are out there, the Patreon is patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. And there's probably a way you could just, sponsor the entire goddamn outfit if you wanted to. Like, but welcome aboard to the Islanders. Elle Woods, I did a Google image search, and that sounds weird, but hold on. I did a Google image search of Reese Witherspoon Rangers game. And Dan, 0 pictures came up.
Awesome. See, because she knows. Well, she knows. Again, Reese Witherspoon is a very, very intelligent person. She's very
0 pictures.
She's been in show business forever. She knows what's up.
She's gonna be fighting Jimmy Fallon and Liev Schreiber, the fan, the crowd. It's just gonna be a celebrity brawl. Macho.
This is gonna be great. It's gonna be very hard for me to root between if Reese Witherspoon gets into a thing with either Liam Neeson, Paul Bettany, or Margot Robbie. That's gonna be very difficult for me to choose. But obviously, Reese.
No, we're jumping in
here. Yeah,
they're gonna be like, "Hey, who's that crazy person with an Alexei Zhitnik jersey jumping in?" Reese Witherspoon's just having a civil conversation with Paul Bettany, and this guy's shoving him.
That'd be fantastic. But again, Reese, please, if you're listening to this, I too have a book club. So you and I are very, very similar, believe it or not. Also, I'd like to talk to you about my daughter, who is a singer and actress herself. But thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And that's about it. Get ready. The season is here. Finally, it's taken forever, but we're very excited. I almost said keep the Islanders weird because we've been recording so many episodes of Weird Islanders, but keep the Islanders weird, obviously. But we'll be back next week with a brand new Anxiety. And then next week, also Weird Islanders, start a new season. All right. Take care. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.